Hello and welcome back to 100 to 1 podcast. Myself, DJ Rex. What's we got in the building today?
Rosie, you're at BBK. You already know it's the Blue Badge King, Mr. Rose. Just me today.
Yeah, just the two of us today. I guess let's start with how we got on last week.
I don't even remember all of last week's, but I feel like generally with what I'm doing, I can't remember now exactly what happened last weekend. I think the weekend before I had a win, isn't it? So it wasn't last weekend. I know I didn't win anything, but I think I might have got a little. Sorry?
You were pretty close, weren't you? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think that I'm sure I might have got like a little cash out of something, could like even just maybe like, because what I'll try and do is I'll try and see if obviously if I can win first and foremost, and then my next goal is to recoup, and maybe recoup as much as I can, if not all of it. So some weekends now I might just make 120 and it's like, you know what, roll it off, get out at the right time basically, and just make your money back basically. So I think last weekend was one of those weekends, but yes, typically I'm sticking with my sort of handicap formula, as you know, we'll discuss in terms of this week's as well. I've done the same again.
All right, so a light week at the office, basically, yeah.
Yeah, basically, man. But I'm still hopeful that I got another a Christmas bonus coming, man. Very optimistic.
Yeah, the matches come thick and fast at this point of the
Exactly.
season. So
That's why guys got to be careful as well, because as they come thick and fast, if it's not going your way, you don't want the wife to misses onto you guys when Christmas presents, the time to, the shopping's due, and it all went up in smoke. So, pace yourselves, guys. That's all I can say.
Yeah. All right. Let's crack on with this week's topic.
I think, as often is the case, we like to focus our attentions to North London, particularly the red side. Obviously, with Nams being a representative of the red side of North London, me being a representative of Manchester United. So I think that'd be a good place to start, given that both sides met in the middle of the week. Obviously, as we all probably know by now, it was a victory for Arsenal, 2-0 victory at the Emirates. I was, from a United perspective, especially for where we are at the moment, I was very pleased with the game. Very pleased with the game. Watching the game, as far as I'm concerned, we went toe to toe with Arsenal. We kept good possession. We had good shape, good discipline, defended well, controlled possession well. We didn't do much offensively, but neither did Arsenal from open play, certainly. Just, get to the byline, try and put some crosses in. That was about it. But I don't recall Onana having to do any particular work apart from having to, fight a few men off, trying to push him over in the corner kicks. But other than that, I don't really recall much. So for this stage of Amarim's tenure, to go away to one of the leading sides, and certainly hold your own. It's a game that could have gone either way. I say, we had the Delict header that was a good effort as well. I think there were a few little half opportunities. I think Fernandes' free kick, if I'm not mistaken, was not too bad as well. But yeah, I'm pleased with it. But the game has obviously attracted a lot of discourse with regards to how Arsenal have went about their play. You would think, Manchester United, much maligned, Manchester United, Arsenal, much celebrated, playing at home in front of their stadium. I think a lot of people, neutrals, certainly expected a bit more. And I think there's probably different ways of looking at it. Arsenal, obviously, their main weapon on the day was basically set pieces. A lot of people are questioning, should that be the sum total of Arsenal's efforts? Mikel Arteta has had his team for 5 years. He spent 800 million pounds on his team. They're playing against a new United side, relatively. People expected more. I would probably caveat that on the flip side and say that, obviously you need to have different weapons in your armory over the course of
That's what I was gonna lead into. Is as
over the
in
course of a 38 game
yeah,
season.
different
Um,
horses, mate.
you
You
need to
can't.
win some games this way, some games that way, and ultimately you need to win enough games to meet your objectives. And I think for Arsenal in particular, it's a bit full circle because normally they were a team. They've been traditionally been a team that's been targeted at set pieces. A team that's been roughed up. We remember infamously, the long running battle with the likes of Stoke City. Arsenal, it was no secret that he did not like them. Stoke City used to, I would say, lick their lips when Arsenal would come into the Britannia, looking to rough them up, pile onto the goalkeeper. Rory Delap, put it on top of the goalkeeper, and basically have a tussle in the 6-yard box, which Arsenal invariably ended up losing, basically. So,
To see Arsenal, we like that same tactic. Definitely, there's some
indeed.
irony in
I've
there.
seen a lot of statistics. I think, I will say, United is obviously, I've often said that United is a big story. So when it happens to United, it attracts a lot of conversation.
Yeah,
But this didn't start on Wednesday at the
yeah, of
United.
course.
It's something Arsenal have been doing for quite a long time. Gabriel has been a goal threat since last season. They've been working this, and this season, in particular, he's somebody. Even us as a betting podcast, he's somebody that I've put bets on, the good odds on, Gabriel to get a shot generally because he's one of their main weapons, and he scored key goals against City, against Spurs, for example. And Arsenal have won a lot of points through set pieces this season, through corner kicks in particular. I remember a late winner against Leicester, with Trossard from a corner, and again. What I will say is Arsenal haven't been at their fluent best, I don't think, this season, not to the standard that they've had in the last 2 seasons. And there's a number of reasons for that. They will point to maybe Odegaard being injured, perhaps Martinelli dropping off a little bit in terms of form. I think those would be their main arguments in that respect. And when you're confronted with situations like that, as a manager, what do you do? Do you say, well, to find a way, ultimately? So I can give them credit from that perspective, but I can also see the other side of the conversation that people expect better from Arsenal. There's
No, though, man.
tradition of Arsenal Football Club as well.
Sometimes you got to win ugly though, and that makes all of the difference in a 38 game season. So I feel like
I mean, it's a fair point.
sometimes you got to get down and dirty. I feel like they come away with the 3 points, and when it's all said and done, and in May when they're etching someone's name on that trophy, no one's gonna. Do you know what I mean? People are gonna.
That's a fair point. Me being on the receiving
I mean?
end as a United fan, I didn't like it because it left a bit of taste in my mouth to think that, okay, we've come here to play, and people have maybe not fancied us because they think Arsenal's a better football team, and it's like this is how they came. Like, you guys are supposed to be superior to us, is what everybody's been saying all this time. We'll come out and beat us, come out and play us, and we've come to play. And what I saw, it became clear from quite early that the strategy is just to put corners on top of Onana, basically, and that was it. There was nothing else, really, nothing else. And I was disappointed. So I think that given that was the best that they had mustered, I would have felt like it felt like a bit of an injustice in a way, because I feel like given how we've set up and organized in terms of the game, I thought we should have come away with something. Come away with a point is not it wouldn't have been an unfair reflection. I mean, because losing, battles in a 6-yard for a corner. I mean, the ball went in off Saliba's backside. These are very ugly goals. Like, losing points to that, it just feels ugly. I feel like as far as the open game is concerned, we were well valued for a point, which I think would have been rewarding for the team, especially in the stage that they're at in their development, to know that, okay, yeah, we've come here, we've earned this point, we've earned this point, and we can compete, which they did. So I think that I think there'll be, if we had gone there, we'd lost 3-0 in a certain type of way, I don't think people would have excused it. People would have said, well, fair enough, they are there and Arsenal are there, but that wasn't the case. So I feel that given that the game was very level to me, I think that it's disappointing not to come away with anything. But yeah, Arsenal, look, if this is their plan to win a league, I don't think it's going to work. They're going to need more than this. Ultimately, they're going to need a lot more than this. You can see the likes of Liverpool that's running away with it now, scoring goals freely. And, you know, they got the likes of Konate and Van Dijk, who are standing tall, won't be bullied on corner kicks either. And, you know, they'll probably score a few themselves. So if they plan to best that Liverpool team, they're going to need to do better than what they're doing at the moment. And, you know, that is disappointing for me to watch. And it's someone that I've really kind of championed Arsenal's cause, I'd say, over the last couple of years and really given them their credit where it's due for how they've been playing. But I didn't like what I saw on Wednesday.
You know what's funny? I'm just looking at some stats here. They've scored 22 goals from set pieces since the beginning of the season, highest in Europe's Big Five.
Yeah,
Leverkusen are next up with 17. So it's obviously it's effective, isn't it? As you said earlier, they're gaining points from it. So sometimes it's like, not like can you criticize a system if it's not working, but for me personally, that's not going to be enough to win the league.
Yeah,
with Liverpool on the run that they're on, but can you blame them? Do you know what I'm saying? They were playing free.
I mean, you can't blame them, and I will caution my views in the sense that, you know, look, that add the balance to it. That look, end of the day, set pieces are not there just to be surrendered as like you want to gain an advantage from them. Obviously, to getting them, you know, we're supposed to train so that they're actually have value. It's like free kicks. Probably once upon a time, people wasn't putting them in the top corner from 30 yards out. It was like, no, let's actually make use of these situations, practicing free kicks, the likes of Beckham and all of these, like, so that when we get these, we want to capitalize on it. So you're supposed to try and capitalize on it. So I don't necessarily have a problem with them being a threat from set pieces, but for me, conflated with the lack of a threat in the other areas, that is what brings the disappointment, because you think that, okay, the Arsenal team, that should be a string to their bow, but they shouldn't be leading with set pieces. They shouldn't be leading with set pieces with where they are in terms of big sides. Big sides have big ambitions, big demands, and as a result, it's difficult for managers to keep their jobs. So when you look around Europe, they're one of the teams that have been that are the most settled, because other teams, you don't win, you get sacked. You start again, you start again, you start again. Arsenal have had 5 years with very relatively consistent structure from the manager to Edu, who's obviously just left. They've spent money. They've really rolled out a vision, a sustained vision over a long period of time that most teams would not have. You have Ancelotti, who's had that time. You have Liverpool, who are leading them, have had change. Spurs have had change around them. United have had change because the demand is you need to win. So obviously City, who have won, have been consistent as well. So when you come against that, you expect a little bit more. So, but you know, we'll give them a chance and see what end of the day, ultimately, it's on them. If they want to win, they're going to need to do more. So if that is all that they have, then it would, unfortunately, I suspect, won't be enough. So, you know, and I don't think it necessarily will be, and I think that they will play better at different points. But this season, they haven't played fantastic football, I would say, on the whole. But they found a way to kind of stay in the title race and remain competitive, and a lot of that has been due to set pieces.
I hear it. I think bringing it back to the theme of the pod, there might be good value in scoring from a set piece.
I mean, it's definitely always a shout when you watch how they, you know. I mean, look, there was some interesting comments that were released by John Obi Mikel. I saw earlier today. I mean, he believes that, you know, referees need to do more. The Arsenal's corner kick routine is illegal. There's a lot of fouling that goes on there. Ben White, in particular, stands on the goalkeeper. His job is to obstruct the goalkeeper, push the goalkeeper. I've seen a lot of the goals in question. A lot of these corner kick goals, the goalkeeper's completely taken out. It's not like he's lost the challenge. He's pretty much on the floor when the goal's going in, because somebody else, not the person who heads the ball, a teammate has basically pushed him over. Maybe in the melee, I mean, we have VAR, so, you know, Arsenal will say, look, if you want to disallow it. But, you know, that's a view as well. But look, they're being effective, but it is very reminiscent of, you know, Stoke City. It's fair to say. I mean, in terms of when, you know, the set piece threat that they carried in their prime, obviously they were not as good as Arsenal, but that aspect of their game, that was their threat. And it's like, oh, the corner kick, Arsenal, now people are panicking, people are shivering, Arsenal got a corner. It's like, is this Arsenal?
Is that identity? You know, it's nuts. I'm looking at the United game. There are 13 corners in total.
Yeah. So it was like an inevitability. And to be honest, a lot of them were threatening. But outside of the corners, I don't think there was any particular threat. Don't think there was any particular threat at all.
That might be. I might start slapping that onto my slip if you can. Because I remember there was, is it shots on target and corners that you can do in each half?
Yeah, I remember Thomas Partey missed one on Wednesday that early on that was like probably should have scored. That was like a header from like a yard out. But again, you know, it was almost like just they're playing a shared probability. You keep putting it in the 6-yard box and we flood the 6-yard box and we rush the goalkeeper. But yeah, I mean, look, I expected more from them. That's all.
West Ham earlier in the week was 10 corners. So
yeah, and I don't know if they scored from a corner directly. I can't remember. I didn't watch the second half, although I think all the goals were in the first half. West Ham are a sorry team, so I'm not even really gonna use that to their credit. I mean, yes, they scored, but I remember they got a penalty from a set piece where again Gabriel jumped and challenged the goalkeeper, adjudged to have been fouled by the goalkeeper, and then obviously they scored the subsequent penalty. So the set piece still worked in their advantage in that game. But yeah, you know, you see a lot of stats. You see people racking up assist stats and all of that stuff. You take the corners, you get assists generally. You know, when your team is such a threat, if you take all the corners, you take 10 corners a game. You know, over the course of the season, every 3 games turns into an assist at least. You know, plus a few from open play. You know, it will read like you're a creative machine. You know, type of thing. But you know, so it's just all about in the detail. But look, they need to improve, but at least it's kept them in the game when they haven't been at their fluent best, which you know is as far as their manager would say is a job well done. So
I hear it.
Yeah, moving on from Arsenal, you know, obviously we're perhaps seeing Arsenal have been a consistent team over the last few years. But they're probably, you know, we've mentioned the set pieces. Maybe they're hanging on to that status a little bit just by the skin of their teeth with set pieces at the moment. But some of the other teams that have been dominant in that period now, you know, facing a lot of challenges. We looked at City, a terrible month, didn't pick up a win in the month of November, but they got 3 points back on the board in midweek against Nottingham Forest. Who knows? Could this be the start? The Christmas period is games come thick and fast, as we've said. If you start racking up points now, a 9-point gap is a 4-point gap in January, and then it's like, whoa, let's go. You know, so you know, people writing them off, it may well be premature. And of course, you know, they're still in there. But who I don't think is still in there is, you know, I think Real Madrid. You know, in terms of teams that have had, you know, enjoyed sustained success in the recent years, Real Madrid are facing similar challenges to what City faced. They lost again since our last podcast. They lost in midweek against Bilbao. I expected them to lose that game. I couldn't find the games to build a slip around it, but I saw that loss coming a mile away anyway, and you know that was no surprise to me. Fantastic odds on that as well. I think it was like something like a 3-1 or maybe 9-4 or something like that for Bilbao to win. Yeah, so obviously that kind of game in the midst of a decent slip will really push the odds up. You can have a short slip, a smaller slip, like a 5-fold if that is one of the games in there. But yeah, I mean, look, a lot of criticism for Mbappe. He's going to take the headlines. He's the biggest name in that team, a team with big names. But it's not. You know, we discussed it last week. The balance is not working. Ancelotti's in the final year of his contract. If it continues like this, he probably, you know, I'm not saying that they'll sack him, but it would just be, you know, we won't be offered a new one. It would just, you know, that would be the end of his tenure. You know, Leverkusen as well, another team, you know, they won all conquering last season, struggled a bit this season, but they look to be coming back to form. And I feel that I might catch them at the right time. I'm hoping that I'll catch them at the right time this weekend in terms of my slips. I've got them on a few of my slips this weekend. But yeah, they haven't. I mean, it was always going to be difficult for them to maintain the standard that they set last year. They were undefeated. You know, across the season in every competition, pretty much except the final of the Europa League. You know, domestically undefeated, won the league and cup, and got undefeated in the Europe until the final. Never going to be able to sustain that. But you know, they have been dropping points. You know, they've been mixed, so they've probably been upset quite a few punters, I would say, this season at the beginning. They set. But I think that they might be coming back. So, you know, it's what that shows is, you know, it's very difficult to sustain success. And I think people like Guardiola, certainly, Sir Alex, deserve a special praise because I remember one thing, you know, during the Premier League times, I mean, during Sir Alex's time, it was always something that was said that, you know, the hardest thing, Gary Neville, all of the you know, class 92 guys, the legends of that team, always said that the hardest thing is to retain a title, not to win it. And the United team were you know, notorious for, you know, before the City team, for winning back-to-back titles. And, you know, in hindsight, looking back, because, you know, a lot of it mentally to maintain a bar, to maintain a level of drive, focus, especially after you've had some reward and you don't let the standards slip for year after year, that's very impressive in any elite sport field, really, to maintain dominance. You know, you work your whole life to reach the peak of a mountain and you reach it. So to stay there. Yeah, to stay there is the next challenge, because you drop the Premier League at the moment is, you know, you drop 5-10% and you're not where you were, like you're in trouble because it's so competitive.
It's the thing is, I think, you know what it is as well for me, I feel like, especially with the amount of games that we now have, including international games, I think it's crazy to stay in that level of consistency for what, 4, 5, 6
and that's why Jurgen Klopp got so much credit as well, even despite only winning the league once, because he was still, you know, he won it, but he was coming second by a point or goal difference or whatever it was. So for that period, they sustained a level of excellence that was like so difficult. You know, a lot of teams up and down. There's you know, you look at Leicester City, for example, then they get relegated the season after they won the league. You know, it's just like, you know, it's difficult to, you know, stay up there. And, you know, maybe Pep Guardiola's team is just coming to the end of that cycle now. It's like, can you keep going? Can you keep finding it within yourself? Because just the monotony of it is challenging. Just another game with these same teams, just another game, and we need to have the same focus. And it's like, we've done so many of them already. We've won so many. Can I just keep going? You know, it is difficult. So to stay at the top, you know, Guardiola, he's won four Premier League titles in a row, which is obviously unprecedented. Obviously Sir Alex won, you know, multiple titles back to back, and even his sustaining was obviously at a different level, because the times where he didn't win the title, United never dropped out of the top 3 for like near enough 20 years. So it was like we would lose the one on goal difference, or like we came second or whatever. It was like, you know, when we were not winning the title, they were not like falling off to 5th and 6th and then having to rebuild from there. It was always a level that was maintained, which, you know, is very impressive. And that probably shows that even within that team, dropping that a few percent, like that second, you know, like that was probably the difference. It's like you don't maintain 100% of that level, like you come second or third. It was like that was probably what was happening in those seasons. Like you fall a little bit short of their standards, you won't win. So to be able to win, you know, I mean, Real Madrid, obviously what they did, they've done the Champions League, ridiculous. Like winning back to back Champions League titles is unprecedented. You know, something that United nearly did as well. Which that always one of my disappointments when I look back. Yeah, we were supposed to be the first team to do it, man. But I think that our history, we've got Sir Alex's legacy is already like phenomenal. But I think that he probably has a lot of frustration that, you know, what is generally or widely regarded as the best club side ever coincided with probably the best, arguably the best United team that he'd ever built. So, and that was the time for them to cash out and really, really run it up, basically. And I talk about the period from, say, 2007 to 2011. And you talk about that United won the title, I think, 3 times in a row. They got to the Champions League final 3 times in 4 years as well.
When you put it like that, it's crazy.
So you look at that, and the times that they lost was to that Barcelona team, and it was like you can't. What can we do? We cannot match this team. You cannot match this team, but any other team they would have beaten. they would have beaten, and then you start looking at, okay, they would have won maybe back to back. They could have won 3 Champions Leagues in a row or something like that. In addition to the, and then when you now go back in history, when the way history remembers that team will be so different. But you know, they had to get past that Barcelona team, so they won the Champions League in 2008, beating Chelsea in the final. 2009, they were back there in Moscow, and they lost to Barcelona. 2010. They went out. I think that was largely, due to a red card from Raphael, but against Bayern Munich, who lost in the final to Inter. 2011. Oh no, have I missed that? 2011 they were back against Wembley, against Barcelona again in Wembley, and they lost that one 3-1. And really, that period, it was just like, as good as we were, we couldn't really get to that level of Barcelona. But I feel like timing was unfortunate in that sense, because domestically, and in 2008 we should have won. We could have won the treble. Probably should have won the treble again. Semi-final against the FA Cup as well, because we won the Champions League, won the league, and we won the treble in '99. Yeah. And then that team that he built didn't win the treble. But you know, these are the margins in football. I remember like an own goal against Portsmouth by Rio, and it wasn't even an own goal like under pressure. It was a miscommunication between Rio and Van der Sar. Like he tried to pass the ball back to Van der Sar. Van der Sar was not where he thought he was, and he just passed it into the net. Like, and these are the details. But this is why it's so hard to win back to back to back, because eventually the details will get you, because just the nature of football, like you can't maintain, like something like that will happen, or a decision will happen, and the margins are so fine. So you can't always come out on top year after year after year if you're being pushed, because something like that will happen. Yeah, you know, so that will just cost you in a cup competition, certainly, or even in a league. Like, so, you know, you look at that, and yeah, even in that period of that, like, you know, 2012, they lost the Premier League in the last kick of the game to the Aguero's goal. You know, again, it was like sustained. When you look at that whole period, think of very, very small details, what they could have come away with in terms of trophies. And they came away with a lot of trophies from that period. But like that Aguero, the game was finished. Like United and City were playing at the same time. United's game was won, and they had won the league. When United's game ended at Sunderland, we were top.
Yeah, I know. He was on the grass. I remember he was on the
grass. And City were losing.
No, it was a draw. Remember, City were drawing at that point.
But I think they scored 2. Dzeko scored like 2 minutes before Aguero.
Oh, yeah, you're right. They were losing.
City were losing. But these are the details. You know what I'm saying? These are the margins. Like that would have been another title in that period. Now you start looking back. Now you would have thought, the greatest, undisputed. Guardiola, Pep. People wouldn't be comparing them in the same way, because he won 3 Champions Leagues in a row and 4 Premier Leagues in a row. But
I still think, despite all of that, though, I still think history still is on the side of Sir Alex. Though. I still feel
no, he's definitely celebrated. I think that would have elevated him to a different level. Like when I think, especially the Champions League, because I think the Champions League is like when you do things in that competition. You know, like I said, 3 finals and 4. If you win like 2-3 Champions Leagues in a row, that's a different level as well. Like, you know. Of course, in the Premier League, he's celebrated. I'm not going to say that he doesn't, but that team, not just him, but the team as well, he's celebrated, because that wasn't his only team. He's been winning with multiple teams, but that team, what that would have done, it would have been, you know, people talk about the Liverpool team in the 80s, they won 4 European Cups or whatever. Real Madrid won 5 in the 50s, and that team would have been like the great United team of like 2008, 2012 that won everything. That would have been.
This is a controversial take here, but sometimes I feel like that element of being close and not being close enough, sometimes I feel like sometimes adds into the legacy. Because I feel like this City team that have done 4 on the trot, I don't feel like people are going to hold them in the same regard as that United team that you're talking about. So I feel like sometimes being close but not close enough, I still feel like sometimes it adds to the legacy. Because having on the trot, sometimes it's just like, not forget, but I think a lot of the time, the ops, everybody.
It's true, because you want to, because it adds to the fact. I always say, I remember I said, like there is a beauty, I think, in losing
sometimes,
because end of the day, as much as we support our teams, the game is the biggest, is the winner. Like the sport is the beauty. Like we love the football, so it's like basically you want to be able to lose. You want to. There needs to be jeopardy for it to have value. Do you know what I'm saying? So you want to not be certain that you're going to win every year or every game. so that when you win, it's worth more, I suppose. You know? So yeah, that is one of the things. So if you was like, okay, they was winning all the titles, then people might start questioning. Everybody must have been dead then. At that time, it was like that's basically it.
You start saying Farmers League, and that's what people are talking about the Prem now. Farmers League. So if City, for example, finish second or third this season, then next season they bounce back. That just adds a bit more pep into the story.
Yeah, just like they had to do all of that to stay ahead of this great Arsenal team or the great Liverpool team, because those teams were really, really, but it's like your competitor, your rival doesn't get crowned enough. If they don't have anything to show for it, then maybe your rivals don't have the respect.
Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like Celtic in Scotland. Basically, it's just like, okay, just gonna rock up. These men are gonna win. It's just like, do you know what I'm saying?
You need Rangers to win one or two. You need Rangers to win here and there to make Celtic have more value.
Do you know what I mean? And I feel like that's why this season people are probably excited for this. But
I just think this era of consumption of not just sport but almost everything is, obviously everything is very much clinical and data and statistical. So it's just all that it says is that unprecedented 4 in a row. We've mentioned the invincibles of Arsenal before, and it's like that is what goes down in history. It's like not for me, not close to being the best Premier League team ever, but the only team that hasn't lost, and that's all that that's all the records will say. So what you're doing when you're up, what you're chasing is the records, because people don't remember the play. So it's like you want the accolades, because that is what lives on.
Yeah, true. Especially with, I guess you're right with this new generation. Everything.
I remember the detail of that United team from 2008. But if I was having an argument on the internet with, let's say, a random Chelsea or Arsenal fan who doesn't, they would just be like, "No, you're nowhere near as good as Arsenal. You won one league champion. They won that." And then I'll be like, "Oh yeah, you're just whatever. Everyone thinks their team's the best. You're saying that because you're a United fan." They probably don't remember the detail, the highs and the I was remember game after game of that period. They just loosely just remember. Look, I remember. Yeah, you man you won the Champions League in 2008, and the last time before that was 99. Like that's all they remember. Like it was just but we was in the final back to back, bruv. Like it was like, you know what I'm saying? We was the strongest. Like apart from Barcelona. Undoubtedly, and at the start of that, Barcelona hadn't peaked yet. So we won it in 2008, and when we won it in 2008, we even beat Barcelona on the way. That Barcelona team was on the come up at that time. So at that time, initially, we was the best team in Europe, but Barcelona had caught us and overtaken us by the end of that team's and then Barcelona went on a mad run. Messi at his prime, it was unstoppable, and probably the best club team. Like they were putting up every record pretty much. We'll see who's where the next dynasty will be. Will City find their way back up? Will Real Madrid recover? I mean, Real Madrid, they're going to be all right. They'll always be all right. If not this season, they're never going to fall off completely.
I think both teams. Yeah, I think they'll be.
City is more precarious because obviously they got this legal issue off the field, so we don't know what the outcome of that might be for them. And if they get sent to the pits, basically, it's like, okay, will they recover?
They'll be back. I think even if they get sent to the pits, they'll do what Juventus done in the 2000s, where they'll serve their time.
Starting again, I don't think they've got the and I say this, people say, "Oh, whatever, United fan," but there's a letter. They're not Juventus, but once the cameras are off them, they're artificial. Like if players start leaving, I don't think they've got the legacy. Like Juventus is the biggest club in Italy, so like one of them, if not. And City are not in England. They're just the most successful team of this era, but they're nowhere near.
Money, though. They got enough money to keep the gravy train going. They served their one season in the Championship. They'll be back up.
But they're talking about below the Championship. That's what they're saying. They're talking about all 5. Is
that what they're saying?
City will struggle to start because Manchester United, and I say that Manchester United can go to the conference, bruv, and they'll be back in the Premier League because. And what they would do if Man United went to the conference, I guarantee you, bro, the conference will be running around trying to sign a TV deal with somewhere because it's basically all eyes on the conference. Man United, we're going to show up. They will get record gates, and the TV want to see this United journey. Yeah, I think people just stop caring about City. Like if they just went there,
I don't agree. I feel like people would definitely care more about United because United have got a bigger international fan base. But I think just the story of the slaying of that giant. 4 times back-to-back Champions League winners, all the way down in the conference. Maybe maybe I'm gonna go and watch them. Do you know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm just gonna go and watch their games because it's gonna be
once they move out of the spotlight, because the fan, I just don't think they're not. City at their very, very best for me are still not the biggest story in English football.
You know what it reminds me. It's giving me Wrexham vibes. You know, the whole story around it is bigger than the actual legacy of the club. Do you know what I'm saying?
Like, yeah, Wrexham's vibe is a vibe, but
be the fanfare of it all.
But I don't know if Wrexham. I mean, yeah, Wrexham like look, there'll be interest. Yeah, I'm not saying there'll be like any other National League team, but I don't think it's just not. It won't be comparable to like United or like Real Madrid playing or something like.
That much I agree. They're not.
I just think once the players go and the managers go, yeah, and like you just have another guy, Scott Smith is the manager of Manchester City now.
He's gonna be a sick guy though. It's still gonna be levels above everyone in those leagues. They'll bounce back.
No, they might get back. Yeah, it depends. Yeah, I mean, they could do if they want to invest and they want to run and take a 5-10 year project back to the top. But obviously, they're going to have to do it in a certain way because what would relegate them already is a breach of all of these financial issues. They cannot just throw billions. But now you're going to have to show that, okay, obviously, the money that we're using, show you're working out. So obviously, in the conference, what sponsors are you really like? You're not going to be pulling on in all of these spot, and if you want to continue inflating your figures down there, then you're going to get checked again. So like you'll have more money than most of these guys. But end of the day, City went. Well, in my time, I remember City in League 1, League 2, bro. Like City nearly dropped out of the whole football pyramid. Like basically, like legitimately, in a time that I can remember, like they got promoted. Was it 2009 or 10 or something like that? They made it to the Premier League. Like, and think of what they've won since then. So they're new, very much new money. Like, and yes, you could say that there's a lot of. I don't think that there was that much interest on City, to be honest. I think their context is all in the context here of the City's story. For me, is always contextualized against maybe United, mainly Liverpool, and perhaps Arsenal. And even City is more used. Yeah, City's success is more just. Is more used to discuss United's shortcomings than anything else. Like the fact that the City rivals, this is the bar. Look what City is showing them up. This is what they need to get to. This is what they need to get to. Yeah, more than them. You look in the media. Yeah, they got Michael Richards in there trying to champion that. That's it. There's no history. There's no I don't think there's that much interest.
The thing is, I doubt that they'll go down five places, but I guess it's to
we'll see what happens with the court case.
Yeah. All right. In wrapping up with that, let's roll on to this week's bets. All right. I'm just gonna get up a bet that.
Why is it doing that? Just to conclude on that final point. For example, if Manchester United were winning 3-4 leagues in a row, or Arsenal or whoever, nobody would be really talking about this is what City need to get to. Nobody this is the standard City, and not like nobody's going to be using that as a running City. Look how much City are off the that's it. It just be like normal order of things has been resumed. That's basically it. Okay.
I hear it. So this is
so this is a slip that I did for tomorrow.
Talk us through.
Yeah, it's a handicap slip. I would say a 7-fold. I can't even see it too clearly the way it is because maybe I have to bring it up on my phone. I don't know if you can enlarge it a little bit. But if not,
zoom. No, I won't let me zoom.
Let me just bring it up on my phone as well. I've done a few different slips, I will say. Largely using it as I do. What I do is I have a core of games most weekends, and I kind of make different slips of varying levels of risk. Basically, from them, sometimes I shrink the slip, maybe take 1 or 2 selections out. Sometimes I push the handicap up in others, but I kind of play around with the same games that I like. So with this one, Yeah, we'll run through it first of all. I've gone Shenomor. So I've started in the Bulgarian league. Shenomor away to Botev Vratsa. -1 Shenomor. Now Sheno, actually I'll do that after. So and then Spartak Trnava. This is in Slovenia against away again to Rosenbrok. These are tough games, like away, always a bit tricky putting away games in there. You just never know. Then I've gone for German league. I've gone for Leverkusen. I mentioned earlier that I'm trying to catch. I'm hoping to catch Leverkusen on their way back up. And Bayern Munich, 2 home games against 2 promoted teams, struggling teams, St. Pauli and Heidenheim. You know, generally, these teams haven't been performing well. They're facing 2 of the biggest teams away from home in the league this week. So I've actually gone for -2 with Leverkusen and -3 with Bayern Munich. After that, I've gone, for a traditional, very traditional side in Romania, Dinamo Bucharest, probably the biggest club there, along with Steaua Bucharest, against Buzău. I've gone for a match result only there, just because Bucharest have been recording a lot of wins. Actually, I'll go through that afterwards. And then I've gone for Genk -1 against Kortrijk and Celtic -1 against Hibs. I put £30 on that one. So it's a relatively small slip, 7-fold. I think when I looked at all my slips for the weekend, I'm exposed in Chernomore game just because 1, it's in all my slips. 2, the timing of it is inconvenient. It's an early kickoff at 1 o'clock. So that game takes out all my slips before the others start. If it started a bit later and it was in play, then you might have a little bit of at least they're up for a minute, and you might be able to get something. But that one needs to actually come home. Chernomore are, I believe, 3rd in the league in Bulgaria, just 2 points off the top. So they really have very much incentivized to win the game. They've on an excellent record. I think they've won 4 out of their last 5. They win comfortably, 3s and 4s. They score in most games. And Botev Vratsa are bottom of the league. It's quite simple. They're bottom of the league, worst team in that league. So I've gone for Cherno to win by more than 1 goal. But as you know, in football, stranger things have happened, over and over. Spartak Trnava, not too dissimilar. Rosenbrok near the bottom of the league. In fact, let me just get their standings. So seeing this is just me today, I could probably, go through, at least break down some of the logic a little bit more on this. So let me just get that one up. Yeah. So I've gone for, Trnava are 3rd in the league. I mean, Bratislava are the biggest team in that league. They generally runaway champions. Trnava are 3rd, Rosenbrok are 9th. So it's not a complete, they're not bottom, they're 9th out of 12. So they're 5 points off the bottom, Rosenbrok. But it's still, there are good 13 points behind Trnava. I don't think it's unreasonable for me to go for a win. I didn't feel confident enough to go for a handicap, and on top of that, I like the odds of a win alone. There's still positive odds. If you get these are not negative odds, so to get that on a just a normal match result, I thought that's not bad. Trnava won 4 out of the last 5. They're facing a team that they're comfortably better than. I think, to put it in our terms, something like maybe like a Aston Villa against Palace, perhaps, sort of game mismatch. Palace could win, but maybe 10 times out of 10, you would expect them to win. Maybe not Villa the way they're playing lately, but generally what Villa have been on in the last sort of few seasons, that kind of standard, playing a team like Palace, generally, invariably, or Everton, think that they'll win the game. So I've gone for that. Then who else next on the slip? So I've mentioned Leverkusen earlier. These are teams that are obviously got big firepower, high scoring teams, can easily score 4-5s. They've they had a bit of a wobbly period, but they're back up. Their last 4 games, they've won all 4 of them. They've scored 5 in 2 of them. And St. Pauli have struggled since they've come up. Basically, Leverkusen are finding their way sort of back up there. They're third in the table now, so I think them on the right time. St. Pauli are, you know, close to the bottom. They're 15th out of 18. Yeah, and they, you know, it's a tough away game for them. Bayern Munich, I think, is self-explanatory. I think they were the architects. They were the in motivation behind my handicap journey a few years ago when I started doing this in the first place, was largely around Bayern Munich, because I just started seeing that it was futile to basically just start doing match results on them. Bayern Munich, I think, will probably win a game 5-0 more frequently than they'll win a game 1-0. So, you know, a game like against Heidenheim, a poor team at home, I've gone for a -3 there. Dinamo Bucharest, I think, you know, generally they should win. It's similar to Trnava. They're not quite at the top, I don't think, right now, but they're a better team. Genk, first in the league against Kortrijk. I think Kortrijk are about 9th. Genk are at home. That one is a little bit of risk attached to it, but I think it's a worthwhile risk if they're going to win by winning by more than one goal. And Celtic and Hibs, I think, is another, you know, one that I think self-explanatory. You know the work that Celtic do up north. So at home against Hibs, I think that they should be winning that by more than one goal. I think the games I'm the most concerned about are the first two. If I can get past those two, then I think that I'll become very optimistic on bringing this one home.
Okay, cool. With that said, just because of timing, got to wrap up. But I guess anything else, if there's anything else interesting, post it on the Twitter, innit, so people can.
Yeah, so obviously I've shared this one already. So you guys, you know, feel free to get on this with me. And let's win some money together, man.
Yeah, let's do it, fam. The Christmas bonus is pending.
That's it. That's what we want.
That's what we need. Until next week. Peace.
Peace, God.